write the lyrics to change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. It's the verse effect. It's just the verse effect. It's the verse effect. It's the verse effect. It's the verse effect. I write the lyrics to change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.
Welcome to another episode of The Verse Effect, the podcast that discusses and dissects specific lyrics from groundbreaking hip-hop and rap songs. My name is Camille.
Joined by me, Roderick.
This episode, our song is Me, Myself, and I by De La Soul.
So, let's talk about this opening line. Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me, mirror, what is wrong? Right away, it's like a remix of this classic fairy tale moment. But instead of vanity or magic, it's all about reflection, self-examination.
Exactly. It's such a simple line, but it flips a powerful cultural script. The mirror isn't just showing them who they are. It's asking them to question the image they're projecting and the expectations being imposed on them.
Right. And that's kind of revolutionary, especially in 1989. Like, at the time, so much of hip-hop was about projecting strength or success.
Or toughness.
Exactly. But here comes De La Soul saying, hey, let's talk about who we really are, what we're feeling underneath all that surface-level stuff.
And, it's more than just personal introspection. They're calling out these societal pressures, right? The mirror becomes this, I'd say, metaphorical device for confronting how culture shapes identity. It's like they're asking, is this who I really want to be? Or is this who I've been conditioned to be?
Man, that's deep. And it's so relevant, especially for young artists back then trying to navigate the industry. I mean, the system practically demands you to fit into these predefined boxes, They were breaking those open.
Totally. And I think what's so brilliant about this line is the tension it creates. There's this internal conflict, like how do I stay true to myself when the world is constantly reflecting back an image of what it thinks I should be?
Yeah, you're right. And not just for them as artists. Everyone faces that in some way. Trying to balance the person you are versus the person people expect you to be. It's universal.
It really is. But in the context of hip-hop, especially at that time, it felt radical. Like here's this group saying, we're not just performers, we're people, we have doubts, we reflect. It's almost unsettling in its vulnerability, and that's what makes it so profound.
And the music backs it up too. The beat is so chill, almost meditative. It's like they're inviting you to pause, to look in your own mirror. You agree?
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is how their lyrics sort of dissect these expectations without ever feeling preachy. They're weaving this introspective thread that still feels accessible. It's not just about them, it's about everyone.
And that's the genius of it. They were speaking their truth while opening a door for all of us to do the same. And speaking of challenging how the world defines you, this lyric, you say plug 1 and 2 are hippies, it's hilarious, but it's also so bold. They're like, no, you don't get to slap that label on us and define us.
And the way they deliver it with that playful plug bull instead of going full force, it's brilliant. It disarms you, but it also makes their point clear.
Right? And it's so them, isn't it? De La Soul always had this way of addressing serious stuff without, beating you over the head with it. They could laugh at themselves a little while still being dead serious about their message.
Totally. It's this lighthearted defiance, like, yeah, we hear you trying to box us in, but we're not playing along.
And the hippie thing, man, that came from the way people saw them. Just because they weren't, doing the hardcore, gritty thing that was popular. They were bright, colorful, different, and people couldn't figure them out, so they just started throwing around labels.
Which is what makes this lyric so important. It's not just about rejecting one label. It's about resisting any attempt to reduce them down to one stereotypical image. It's a statement of autonomy.
And it's so relatable, we've all been there where someone tries to define us based on one piece of who we are. And De La Soul's like, nope, we're bigger than that.
And it's a kind of empowerment too. By rejecting these labels, they're giving listeners permission to do the same. To claim their own complexity, their own individuality.
Yeah, and that's why their music hit so hard. They made being yourself it felt revolutionary,
Absolutely. And the cultural context matters here too. Like in the late 80s, hip-hop was still defining itself. To stand up and say, we're not what you think we are, that was a big deal.
Huge deal. And the way they did it, with humor and intelligence, it's what made them stand out. and it's why they're still considered pioneers today. And that brings us to proud. I'm proud of what I am. It's like they're solidifying it, right? Saying, yeah, we've dealt with all your attempts to label us, and guess what? This is us. Take it or leave it.
Completely. It's such a powerful affirmation, especially for that time in hip hop. They're not just saying they're proud.
They're living it.
Exactly. And the way they frame their verses as poems elevates their craft, right? It's almost like they're reclaiming the art form, redefining what rap can be. They're saying, this isn't just entertainment, it's literature, it's art.
And that was huge because back then, not everybody saw it that way. Rap wasn't taken as seriously as an art form. But here comes De La Soul saying, we're not just rapping, we're poets.
It's such a bold move, though, because it challenges not only how the world saw hip-hop, but also how the hip-hop community saw itself. I mean, this wasn't the usual chest thumping about being the best or making money. They're proud of their individuality, their uniqueness, their creativity.
Right. It's such a shift from what you'd expect. And to put it in lyrical form, to say it so plainly, it's refreshing,
But what I love about this line is how it subtly pushes back against conformity. It's not just about being proud of who you are. It's about being proud of being different. They're celebrating this idea that their identity doesn't fit into what's expected, not by the mainstream or even the hip-hop world at the time.
And that's where the plug two type part comes in. It's like an inside joke, but also a declaration. This is our style, our voice, and we're owning it. And
Yes, and it's not just self-expression, right? It's also about self-definition. They're not waiting for someone else to validate them or tell them their worth. They're proud because they defined what being proud even means for them.
absolutely. And when you think of plug two type, it's like they're claiming their own space, their own sound. And it's so intentional. They didn't just make music, they made a statement with every line, every beat.
And by calling out their style as poems, it's almost like they're inviting us, no, challenging us, to listen differently, to look at hip-hop differently. They wanted people to approach their music with that same pride they carried in their identity.
It's genius. And it's so De La Soul. They gave us like a blueprint for being unapologetically ourselves, while still keeping that joy and creativity alive in their art. Then they go even deeper with that plea. Please, oh please, let plug two be himself, not what you read or write. It's such a direct call that fits perfectly with their whole ethos, right? They're still saying, this is who we are. Stop trying to box us in.
Absolutely. And it's such a direct challenge. They're like calling out how the media, the fans, even society tries to create these narratives about who they are. They're saying, nope, that's not us.
Right? And what's wild is how relevant that still feels. I mean, we see this all the time where artists get boxed into these identities that they didn't even choose. And here comes De La Soul saying, nah, we'll define who we are. Thank you very much.
And what makes it even more powerful is that it's not just defensive, It's not like they're just reacting to criticism. It's a reinforcement of individuality. This line isn't asking for permission. It's a demand for respect.
Yeah. And the way they put this idea in such simple terms, man, it just makes it that much stronger. They didn't need fancy metaphors. They're like, let me be me.
Exactly. And what strikes me is how this lyric mirrors a larger cultural struggle, especially for Black artists. There's this constant tension between being celebrated for your creativity and being reduced to a stereotype or even just a commodity.
Right. And they were pushing back against all that. Like they knew the game, but they weren't about to play by its rules. It's refreshing, honestly, how unapologetic they were.
And it's brave too. Because rejecting those narratives means you're risking alienating a lot of people, fans, critics, whoever. But for De La Soul, their authenticity was more important than fitting in or even selling out.
Man, it took courage, especially back then when a lot of hip-hop was leaning on these larger-than-life personas. De La Soul's like, nah, we're not playing that game. We're staying true to who we are.
And that's what makes this song such a declaration of independence. It's not just a plea for individuality. It's a rejection of conformity, of letting anyone else tell your story. And that
independence we were just talking about, it shines again here with this lyric, style is surely our own thing. It's like they're doubling down, staking their claim on being authentic, refusing to chase trends or play roles dictated by anyone else.
Exactly. And what really strikes me is that phrase, the false disguise of showbiz. It's such a sharp critique of, well, how entertainment can strip away individuality and turn people into these, I don't know, prepackaged products.
Right, right. And De La Soul was like rejecting all of that. They weren't about to trade their authenticity for mass appeal. And you gotta think, that was a bold move back then. Late 80s hip-hop was all about showing off. Your wealth, your power, your machismo. And here they come, flipping the script.
And doing it with so much confidence, too. They're saying, we don't need any of that gloss or gimmickry. Our style is enough. Honestly, it's so refreshing to hear an artist refuse to conform to what the industry demands.
Absolutely. And like, they weren't just making music, they were making a statement. It was, it was bigger than hip-hop. They were carving out a lane that no one else was, including visually. The colors, the album art, it all screamed individuality.
Oh, for sure. Even their aesthetic choices were a form of resistance. They weren't wearing like the leather jackets, chains, or anything that screamed cool in the traditional sense. Instead, they embraced a kind of playful eccentricity that forced you to see them on their terms.
Exactly. And this lyric, it's them calling that out directly. Like, look, we're not here to pretend or become someone we're not to fit some marketed image. It's real.
And it's not just about rejecting showbiz. It's about having pride in their own lane. Like, they weren't afraid to say, what we're bringing to the table is enough. And honestly, I think that kind of confidence gave their listeners permission to feel the same about themselves.
Totally. And that's what makes this lyric so powerful. Not just for De La Soul, but for the culture, It's this reminder that authenticity will always win out over performing for someone else, even if it means taking the harder road.
Exactly. Because authenticity isn't easy. It's a fight, especially when everything around you pushes for conformity. De La Soul didn't just talk the talk, they walked it too. And that integrity, it's part of what's made their legacy so enduring.
And that idea of individuality, it's exactly what Me, Myself, and I is all about. The track wasn't just a statement, it was almost like an anthem, redefining not only what hip-hop could sound like, but also who hip-hop could be,
Absolutely. It's like they took this rigid framework, this idea of what a hip-hop artist was supposed to look like, act like, sound like, and just, threw it out the window.
Right, right. And the ripple effect was massive. I mean, suddenly you had artists realizing, oh, wait, I don't have to follow that template. I don't need to wear a mask to fit in. Being myself, that could actually work.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the artists who felt that, it was the listeners too. Like suddenly there's this song telling you it's okay to not conform or to not live up to someone else's expectations.
And it was such a refreshing perspective in 1989 too. Like here's De La Soul saying, we're going to celebrate individuality, introspection, vulnerability, all the stuff that wasn't exactly the norm in hip-hop back then. You didn't hear that narrative.
And that's what makes it timeless, because we're still navigating these same struggles today, right? Whether it's as individuals or as part of a larger culture, the pressure to conform is, always there.
Yeah, it's like they planted a seed that grew into something huge. If you look at the artists that have followed, especially in alternative or conscious hip-hop, from Outkast to Kanye to Tyler, the Creator, you can trace a line back to the boundaries De La Soul broke open.
For sure. And what's even more remarkable, to me at least, is how their innovation wasn't just musical. It was philosophical. They were asking these big existential questions about selfhood, authenticity, identity. Essentially, who am I and who gets to decide that?
Man, and that's the question, isn't it?
It really is. And the beauty of Me, Myself, and I is how it answers that question. Not with like a definitive solution, but with permission to just explore, to express, to evolve. And this might sound dramatic, but it's liberating,
Totally. And, as someone who grew up in the golden age of hip-hop, I think what stays with me most about this track is how it invites everyone listening, to join that journey. It makes individuality universal, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think that's the legacy. Beyond the music, beyond even the lyrics, what De La Soul left us with is a blueprint. For artists, for fans, for anyone trying to navigate a world full of expectations. They said, be yourself. And that's enough.
Yeah. And as we look back on everything they've done, it's clear they weren't just innovators. They were trailblazers. And Me, Myself, and I, that was their manifesto.
Perfectly said. And on that note,
We'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining us on this journey through me, myself, and I, and everything it stands for.
it's been a pleasure as always. And remember, whoever you are, wherever you're listening, just keep being you. That's the real legacy here.
Well said, Camille. And that's all for today on The Verse Effect. Until next time, take care and stay true.
It's the verse effect, it's the verse effect. I write the lyrics that change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. I write the lyrics that change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.